Hello and welcome to part 3 of this Houdini tutorial on the soccer ball. This is part 3, create a realistic soccer ball. So our first step is going to be, before we move on, we have from part 2 this soccer ball with our wire mesh, and we just want to make it look more realistic. So first things we're going to do is we're going to disconnect this subdivide node from our polyextrude. The way we're going to do that is hold down Y on our keyboard for the cutting tool, and then just click and drag with our left mouse button. Clean cut, and then we'll just extend this tree a little bit, and they want us to insert it back into the tree right here. So we'll just insert it right there. Okay, and now if we put our display on the polyextrusion, we can see that we have a bunch of little faces out there. We don't want that. We don't want to really be working with a million little faces, so what we're about to attempt next is going to fix that. So we're going to add array node. So just look array, enter, and we're just going to add that to our network. So right after our subdivide, we're just going to drop it in right here. You can see the lines automatically connect. I can scroll in for you to make it easier. And so now we see that Houdini has an error because Ray is missing another input. So what we're going to do here is add a sphere. It's going to be a primitive sphere in my case. You can put a creation sphere or a primitive sphere. I don't mind. It doesn't really matter. The PDF doesn't really care in their own tutorial, but I just go along with primitive because it's kind of quicker and easier for me. So we're just going to click that, and we're going to click on its output and wire that into the input of our array. All right. And so what that does is that the sphere takes all the points from our piece of geometry and lets us project them into one another. So you'll see what that means later, but basically it's saying these little pieces that we have over here, rather than jutting out at sharp angles and looking rather cheap or unrefined, it's going to try and blend them into a perfectly spherical shape, and that's going to feed into our array, which feeds into our extrusion, which is just going to give us a better looking ball overall. So now we have our display on our polyextrusion node, and we want to change from individual elements to connected elements, because individual, we see all these different parts of the ball that we could extrude, and we could do that one by one by one by one and take forever, or maybe we run into some errors. Again, I'm a beginner. I don't know what you're going to run into here, but in all honesty, let's just go with connected components like the tutorial suggests, so that we can affect the entire object en masse rather than having to go manually pick out everything that needs to be done. Now, we're going to add another node in our network, and this is going to be called an attribute creation node. So we're going to look attribute create, and we're going to add it in between our platonic and subdivision nodes. Now, we're going to name it patches, and we're going to set its class to primitive because we're looking for integers here. And we're going to set our value to prim none. Now this is a flag, and what this flag is going to do is say, hey, any primitive number, so anything that's not a float, basically integers, so 1, 2, 3 round numbers, anything that's a primitive number on this ball, so each face, as you can see, each face is numbered. I want every numbered face to be associated with being called a patch. And so essentially, we've created this attribute called patches, and every number on this ball that is a patch is associated with patches. And so we can go into the geometry spreadsheet, and we can see that numbers 1 through 31 are all associated with a patch. And then if we actually look in the array view, we can see that, so if we go to array, you can see that those numbers have now expanded. So it still goes 0 to 31, but as you can see, instead of every patch having a unique key, like in the poly extrusion, 34 goes to 1. In the array, I know I didn't really change spreadsheets there, but you know what I mean. In the array, 55, 54, 53, they'll all be connected to 2. They'll all be connected to one another. So this just makes things easier for us to handle, I assume. There's probably some way cooler stuff that you could do with what we're doing here. Even the PDF says that this is really about, or out of the realm of what beginners are trying to learn. This is just really like a neat thing. So following on the idea of neat things, let's move on to step 6. So let's go to the scene view tab, which is right here. And we're just gonna, on the visualization tab, and we're just gonna right click on it. And we're gonna go to scene, we're gonna add a new scene, and we're gonna add a marker. And this marker is gonna be called patch numbers, or patch underscore numbers. And then we're just gonna copy, misspelled right there. Okay, copy that, paste it in the label as well. And then we're gonna want that to be a primitive. And then the attribute that we're tying it to is going to be called patches. And now we're going to set that to enter and close. And so now that our viewer, so you can turn the viewer on and off by left clicking it. And so if we turn on the visualization, we can see every patch on this ball in all the subdivided faces. And if you want to view it from different rays or different nodes, you can just click the display flag on each of them and see where the corresponding points go. You can play around with this as long as you want, do whatever you'd like. But for now, we're going to press Control S, and that's going to save our work. And that's going to be it for this part of the project. We'll just turn off the visualization, and thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.